Hey film fans! Welcome to CINEPRO, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps. From heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters, the movie starts with our main character, Asan, who works as a nurse and helps people in the hospital he works in. The doctor comes out at the same time, calls him, and asks him for the X-ray images. Asan goes to the X-ray room, and we notice that the staff there treat him badly. He takes the X-ray images and gives them to the doctor, who seems to ignore him. Even the word of thanks that Asan is waiting for, he doesn't get, until he decides to leave. The nurses go to change their clothes because their shift is over, and they agree to go to a cafe to sit together for a while. When they leave, we find out that Asan was hiding inside one of their lockers to watch them. He opens one of the lockers and touches her clothes. He takes her perfume and sprays some on his hand. Lunchtime comes, people leave, and we see him sitting alone. The shift ends and he finishes his work, then takes public transportation. Afterward, he goes for a walk and notices a couple standing together. Then he buys his food and goes home, where we learn he lives alone. He stands in front of the mirror for a long time, looking at the birthmark on his face, blaming it for the bad treatment he gets from people. The day passes and he goes back to the hospital where he works. The nurse calls him and yells at him because of a shortage of medicine in the storage. She leaves him and goes to joke and laugh with the doctor. He goes down to the morgue and locks himself inside. He takes a corpse out of the fridge, and before uncovering it, he reads the report and learns she died of a heart attack. He uncovers her and apologizes for what he is about to do, then starts to get closer from her in an inappropriate way. When he goes home, we discover he takes a lock of hair from every corpse he'd do this to her and keeps them in a box. The day ends, and he goes back to the hospital. A critical case comes in, and he stands with them until the nurse he likes goes to put on lipstick. He waits for her in the locker, watching her. When she leaves, he takes her lipstick. The workday ends, and everyone leaves together except him. He leaves alone as usual. He goes home, prepares food, and eats in front of the TV. At the same time, we see Salma, who is at a disco. She drunk and dances until she gets tired and leaves the place, staggering right and left until she faints and falls to the ground. Her body keeps trembling on the floor until she dies. The day passes, and Asan goes to drink coffee alone. At the same time, a new corpse arrives at the hospital, is taken to the morgue, and put in the fridge. Asan sneaks into the doctor's office, takes the stethoscope and tries it on himself. Night comes, and he leaves the hospital, goes to sit by the sea, eats sunflower seeds, and watches New Year's celebrations while sitting alone. The day ends, and he goes back to the hospital. He takes his food and goes to eat, glancing at the new nurse, who looks at him with disgust and walks away. He returns to the operating room after the doctors finish to complete his work, but stops when he sees his reflection and the birthmark on his face. He puts his hand in antiseptic and draws it on his other eye. He takes scissors and pauses for a while, planning to remove the birthmark so he can be a normal human like everyone else. But he doesn't have the courage and changes his mind. He leaves the room and stands in front of a beautiful patient with a weak heartbeat. The doctors rush to save her while Asan stands watching, wondering if she will die and go to the morgue or not. But the patient's condition stabilizes. Asan goes to the storage to do inventory but breaks down, gets angry, and throws everything in front of him because he is disgusted with himself for wishing the patient would die so he could get closer to her in the morgue. He leaves the room and heads to the morgue, stands in front of the door for a while, then enters and opens the fridge, taking out a corpse. When he removes the sheet, we find out it's Salma. He sits and talks to her, laughing about how beautiful she is. He tries to imagine what her life was like and chats with her. He looks at his watch and realizes they'll notice his absence. He looks at her and tells her he won't be long, covers her face with the sheet, and puts her back in the fridge. Time passes, and he goes back to her, then lies next to her body, happy. He keeps talking to her, telling her he grew up in an orphanage where there was a beautiful girl like her, but she was an addict until she decided to end her life. He pauses, cries, and continues, saying everyone was disgusted by her appearance except him. He went to her and hugged her. He cries more and is moved, then turns and hugs Salma's body. Days pass, and this happens several times until the undertakers come to take the corpse for burial. After the burial, Asan goes to the cemetery, searching for her grave until he finds it. He lies on top of it, runs his hand over the surrounding plants, then curls up on her grave as if hugging her, staying in the fetal position for hours until a very crazy idea comes to his mind. He takes her body and brings it home. He sits watching TV while eating, talking and discussing things with her as she sits next to him on the couch. He wipes the dust off her shroud, then goes out to a makeup shop to buy her some cosmetics. After that, He goes to a clothing store where he likes a red dress and decides to buy it for her. He returns home, dresses her in the dress, puts makeup on her, takes her to bed, gently holds her hand, kisses it, and puts it back quietly. He comes closer, kisses her, then gets closer to her. When he finishes, he returns to work and sits on the swing until the new nurse comes and calls him for work. He goes with her, but before leaving, he pushes the swing. He spends the whole workday happy and cheerful, waiting eagerly for it to end. When it's time to leave, he plays and runs around the door. And when he finishes, he takes a deep breath as if breathing for the first time in his life. He rushes home and puts salt around her body so the smell of the corpse doesn't come out. He starts putting full makeup on her, lipstick on her lips, does her eyes, puts earrings in her ears, fancy shoes, and a necklace around her neck. He sits watching TV with her while eating, telling her about his day at work, how the nurse there makes him work a lot as if she's picking on him. He pauses, kisses her, and tells her she's very beautiful. He hears a knock at the door. He opens it and finds the landlady, who asks if he has a guest inside, but he says it's just the TV. She tries to come in out of curiosity, but he closes the door on her. He goes back to the hospital, steals some beauty cream, returns home, and applies it to her body because the signs of decomposition are starting to show more and more, and he realizes he doesn't have much time left. He carries her and goes down the street, taking her with him. He rides a boat and holds her in his arms. The day passes, and he is at work. The nurse calls out to him when she sees him and asks him to bring the test results for a certain patient. But for the first time, he responds to her and tells her, "Bring them yourself since you have free time and you're not doing anything and you're free." She asks him, "What do you mean by I'm free?" He approaches her confidently and tells her, "You're free because the doctor you like is off today." He takes the cigarette from her and smokes it, then leaves her and walks away. After that, he goes to the doctor's room because the doctor asked him to come, and he finds out the doctor wants some files from the storage. But Asan replies to him and tells him he's not free, and leaves. He goes to the storage room and lies down there confidently. He finishes the work. On his way home, for the first time in his life, he stops in front of the cafe and greets his neighbors. He returns home and sits with Salma, gets her ready, puts accessories on her, and tells her, "Today I'll take you to a special place." They go to the amusement park and ride the swings. The day ends and he carries her to leave. When they get home, the landlady stops him and asks him what he's carrying on his shoulders. But he manages to escape her questions at the last moment. He enters with Salma, changes her clothes, takes off her shoes, rubs her body with salt, and ties her stomach so it doesn't swell, as a sign that a long time has passed since the body died. The day passes and he stands in front of the mirror, seeing the deformed part of his face. When he tries to cover it with his hand, he realizes he's hiding the other part, and that it will always remain. He stays silent for a while, gets the comb, starts combing his hair, and smiles. He puts on a new shirt, sprays perfume, goes to work, and greets everyone. Everyone is surprised by his new attitude and look. He goes to give the doctor what he needs. The doctor stops him and tells him his hair looks much better this way and asks him to sit down. He starts talking to him and asks where he's from. He says he doesn't know. The doctor finds out he's an orphan and asks him, "Don't you have anyone at all?" He looks at him confidently and says, "I have my beloved." He returns home, and on the way, he plays with the neighbors for a while. Then he enters his house, but before that, the landlady stops him and asks him to take out the trash because the house is starting to smell bad. He says okay and quickly goes to Salma's corpse and puts salt on her to mask the smell. After he finishes, he sits with her on the couch in front of the TV, but realizes the smell is unbearable. He goes to get a curtain and installs it. The day passes. The landlady waits until he leaves and then goes up to the apartment. She stands in front of the curtain, but gets a phone call and leaves quickly. Ehsan returns home and brings disinfectants, puts them in the bathtub, brings Salma's corpse, and puts it in the bathtub. He sleeps for a while, and when he wakes up, he finds that the color of her body is still purple. He goes to an electronics store and buys a large fridge, moves it to his house. At the same time, the landlady comes and starts asking him questions out of curiosity, but he avoids answering her, gets her out, and locks the door. He takes Salma and puts her inside the fridge so her body will be preserved for as long as possible. He returns to work and brings them tea at his own expense and closes the door. He takes Salma and puts her in the fridge so her body will be preserved for as long as possible. He goes back to work and brings them tea at his own expense. They thank him, and the nurses start talking about him, as if he's come back to life again. He returns home, puts his hand on Salma's fridge, and kisses it. He knows he won't be able to have a relationship with her again, but still, He knows her presence alone in his life will bring him great balance. The day passes and he goes back to work. He sits and drinks tea with the doctor, and they chat for a while. He observes how Ehsan sits and tries to sit like him to boost his own confidence. He goes to buy a suit and gets flowers. When he returns home, he finds the landlady telling him, "Why did you change the lock without my permission?" He replies, "You also can't enter without my permission." She tells him, "Bring me a copy of the key tomorrow or I'll call the police," and leaves. He enters the house, opens the fridge, and puts the flowers around Salma. He looks toward the window and sees the landlady starting to talk to the neighbors about his strange behavior. Ehsan gets angry, paces back and forth, and starts remembering the memories between him and Salma's corpse. He tells her he'll never leave her no matter what happens, and that they'll always be together. He takes off his jacket, collapses on the floor, then gets up and goes downstairs, but finds that the landlady has locked the iron door. He tries to open it and break it, but to no avail. He starts to break down and quietly says he wants nothing except to take her and leave. He enters his apartment, looks out the window, and remembers that his apartment is linked to the ceiling. He goes to get the hammer. Morning comes and 3 things happen. First, we see the landlady standing alone in the street waiting. Second, he's late for work at the hospital and doesn't go. Third and last, the camera zooms in on the fridge, and we see inside Ehsan and Salma frozen in each other's arms forever. And that's it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.